Today's News Talk Radio, TNT.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to this live broadcast. We're still in the first hour. I'm your host, Patrick Henningsen. Thank you for rejoining us. We'll be joined shortly by Dustin Stockton from America Mission. Justin will be on the line. We're just connecting him in the background as we speak. And as we were talking before the break, some disturbing harbingers of what can only be described as an escalation in terms of what the United States is planning to do, both in Ukraine, but also in the Middle East. And the latest peace proposal or temporary ceasefire gambit has been floated out by the Biden administration. We'll talk to Sam Husseini about that in the second hour and see what he makes of this, what it means. I don't have a lot of faith that this is going to net anything significant. Israel seems to be acting with a free hand, so it doesn't seem to be restrained by anything the United States is doing. Certainly, we would have heard or seen something to that effect from the Secretary of State himself, who really should recuse himself from the job after when this whole crisis began and kicked off after October 7th, went over there and publicly announced that he is a partisan for the Israeli side and for the Zionist cause. And to say that publicly, to identify publicly in that manner, he should have recused himself. It's not really fit to do the job. It's supposed to be the top diplomat in the United States. So he's really not up for it. And clearly he's got nothing to say about the escalation in Ukraine right now. So when you look at the Biden administration and the dangerous path that the United States is being dragged down the road towards, both in Ukraine and also with Israel and Palestine, you know that somehow sanity has to re-enter the frame in Washington. I don't see that happening anytime soon. So any of these announcements are really just window dressing. Nobody wants to take a strong position on anything before the election. They just want to kick the can down the road. But unfortunately, that kicking the can down the road, they've locked into a cycle of escalation because of all the mistakes they've made before this. So that's the problem. So things could kick off in the summer, and then what? Or maybe that's the plan. I'm not sure, but one thing is for certain: what has happened in New York this week is a total abrogation of everything. I think that most Americans held dear for the most of their lives, anyway, which is the sanctity of the checks and balances system in the United States, and all of that has been basically thrown out the window with this latest lawfare episode, the first successful hit of Donald Trump, who is the presumptive frontrunner for the Republican Party and the nominee to be president in the election coming up, November 2024. I want to bring on to the stage right now political commentator Dustin Stockton from America Mission. Dustin, I'm so glad I can talk to you to try to sift through what we have just witnessed over the last couple of weeks. I just want to get your initial reactions on the Trump verdict. Also kind of put this into perspective for us of what we're looking at here, what just happened, what can we expect going forward?
Well, good to see you as always, Patrick. Dark day for America, and I'll do my best not to make the censorship guy bleep me, although I've been really upset about it. It hit me a little harder than I think I even expected. I mean, we kind of saw this coming, but to be honest, I don't think people really understand the gravity of how much America is different today than it was yesterday. And for a lot of us who have gone through the same kind of prosecution and persecution, we've seen this coming. We've known it was coming, but there's something else entirely to see the leading presidential candidate be charged with this when we know all of the stuff about Obama, right? And the illegal spying on the Trump campaign. We know all of the stuff that happened with Hillary Clinton. We have seen the double standard and the two-tiered justice system so clearly. And for this to rise, for them to stretch the law the way, for them to not even lay out the underlying predicate crime, right? The 444 thing, the jury instructions that Marchand gave the jury, where they didn't even have to be unanimous on what the underlying crime is. That crime is what elevated this to a felony, which also allowed them to get around the statute of limitations in New York. They've stretched the law 10 ways from Tuesday in order to get President Trump. And it's being operated by a very small group of rogue lawyers out of New York who all have received funding from George Soros and the Open Societies Foundation. He brags about it in a Wall Street Journal editorial about why he is spending money to support quote unquote reform prosecutors. This is a planned and coordinated attack using lawfare in order to target your political opposition. And it's favorited by the color revolutionaries that we've been working to expose tirelessly for years. I know you've done incredible work on that. I know that we've had several discussions about the color revolutionaries, their work in Ukraine, their work in Brazil, their work all over the country. It's now come back home to America. And we developed these playbooks so that we could interfere with other countries' governments. And of course, now they're using that playbook on us. And we shouldn't be surprised about that, but we should be appalled and angered. And the righteous indignation needs to be real, it needs to be felt, and it needs to be sustained, or our country's dead. The whole concept of freedom will be gone. We will live in the kind of world where you don't criticize the people in power, and they're allowed to do whatever they want. And if you cross them, you will receive maximum punishment. It is incredibly upsetting and dangerous. And the last thing I'll add, Patrick, do you know what the next thing on Marchand's docket is?
No, please tell us, though.
It's the Steve Bannon We Build the Wall trial. So now that he's done with Donald Trump, the next thing on his docket, and it was scheduled for this same week, the Trump trial got pushed back, so the Bannon trial has also got pushed back. But now you're going after not just the president, but the president's first chief strategist of his White House over the We Build the Wall, which I am a founder of. We actually built the wall. They have never produced a real victim. They've never been able to show somebody who said, I gave money and I have been defrauded. The organization never touched foot in New York, but in order to go after, right? So Marchand's not done by any stretch of the imagination. We have the next Stalin show trial coming up, and it's the same judge, and it's going to be Steve Bannon, and it's going to be over We Build the Wall. And I'm not looking forward to getting drug into that. I can tell you, like, I don't know what to do. As far as like, you almost hoped that there would be at least one jurist who could find it in themselves to realize what a ridiculous show this was. But I'm convinced that the reason that they had two lawyers on the jurist panel, which is very unusual, and then the jury instructions were almost incomprehensible. I talked to probably a dozen lawyers in X spaces, left, right, middle, like non-committed. Not one of them thought that the jury instructions were well written. And I think that was part of the setup. You have two lawyers, you give the jury incomprehensible jury instructions, and then the two lawyers direct everybody to what they're supposed to think about what's in those jury instructions. And that's how you come up with these 34 ridiculously trumped up, stretched law things. And for the left, they get what they want. They get to call him a convicted felon from here on out. And the frustrating part is, like, I see too many people saying, well, it's going to be good for Trump politically. There is no silver lining to the justice system being weaponized for politics. There is no silver lining, right? And so I'm stressing to people, like, this is not the time to like look for the ray of sunshine or the silver lining. This is no good for the country, period. And we're about to go into a phase where there's going to be this left-right tit for tat, and lawfare is going to be weaponized, because it will only stop when everybody has suffered at the hands of it and everybody comes together to say, no more of this.
No, and just for on the legal analysis, so bring up on screen, we reposted some of this at 21stcenturywide.com. This is from Technofog, his neat legal analysis at the reactionary on Substack, what you need to know about Trump's guilty verdict, and just kind of picks apart all the holes in this. It doesn't even hold water from a basic legal standpoint. As you say perfectly, Dustin, they've stretched the law 6 ways from Tuesday or something to that effect. That's exactly what this is. It does have a very strong chance of being struck down in an appeals process. I'm not ruling that out. A lot of legal experts say that's the case, but what you said is right, Dustin. There's no silver lining here because they've crossed a red line. And you know, I tried to tell this to my liberal friends and colleagues and cohorts, family members, everybody I say, look, what's unique about the American system is that we have a series of checks and balances that allow for the free competition of ideas and policies. And ultimately, that's going to be settled at the ballot box. But in this case, in their obsession to remove Trump, the Democrats and their rhino enablers, which there are many, are destroying that very system permanently. And that's a tragedy for the entire country. And it reminds me of Lenin, the Bolshevik leader, and his style of politics, where he regarded everything, every interaction as a zero-sum game. And to use the phrase who and whom, as famously quoted, so who dominates whom? Who has power over whom? Who is in power? Who is out of power? Who's in the inner circle? Who's in the outer circle? That's exactly the sort of doctrine and the mindset that has taken over Washington. And I warn people that if you think this is okay, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, Dustin, that door for Pandora's box has been open. And whoever comes through that door next, be it Republican or whatever, they're going to use these same tools. They're going to use either to exact revenge or to balance out the justice scale as they see fit. And then we're into a really kind of a dark phase in America. Dustin, go ahead.
Well, I think Bolshevik is exactly the right analogy and comparison here. And we've seen what happens in history to the people who champion it, right? Which is you may think, and I have lots of friends who are on the left or politically agnostic. If you're cheering it on now, know that these weapons will be turned against you. Eventually, this is a hammer looking for a nail. And the authoritarianism always creeps. It always creeps and encompasses more and more and more people. And the further you kick it down the road, the worse it gets. So it's really troubling. You brought up the rhinos. I think that the timing of the sentencing is also really troubling here. So Marchand scheduled Trump's sentencing for July 11th. The RNC convention is scheduled in Milwaukee for July 15th, 4 days later. I do not think it is out of the realm of possibility at all that Marchand will either order Trump to some kind of short-term jail stay or some kind of house arrest at Trump Tower in New York to try to deny Donald Trump the ability to attend the RNC convention in person. We're already seeing warmongers like Ambassador John Bolton, some of the worst governors, Joe Lombardo, who famously covered up the Route 66 shooting in Las Vegas, Larry Hogan, the turd from Maryland. These are all technically Republicans. They're already positioning that we can't have a convicted felon as our nominee. And while Trump's base of support has never been stronger, more enthusiastic, and more devoted, this timing of the sentencing and the convention, I'm going to be watching the rules committee of the convention extremely closely to see if they try to incorporate language that demands that the nominee accept the nomination in person. Because I could see another plot here where the rules committee adds very innocuous language about the nominee must be present in order to accept the nomination. And then Trump is held up by Marchand, either in Trump or in some other short-term or long-term prison stay. I don't think that the appeals would let him stay in for very long. But I could absolutely see them trying to hold Trump in the tower. The RNC Rules Committee slips in what seems like innocuous language, and then now we're in a brokered and open convention, and they can try to slip somebody like Liz Cheney or Mitt Romney or one of the people that all of us actual Republicans hate. Yep.
Yeah.
Try to slip somebody from the military industrial complex like they always do.
Haley Pompeo. That's the ticket. No, I mean, we're joking, but we're not joking. We're dead serious. That's really unbelievable. What will be interesting, Dustin, is to see what other countries, leaders, if they will have the guts to opine on this situation as it unfolds, because that makes a big difference what U.S. allies or what other countries in the world are saying in terms of what they think of this democratic process, so to speak, in America. But they've already basically taken a wrecking ball to most other sacred institutions like the Democratic primaries. That's been destroyed and blown up to zero fanfare and no coverage or condemnation from the press or anybody else. Everyone's been pretty quiet about it. It just seems like a strategy of chaos, Dustin. They've got everybody tied up with one crisis or another, and a lot of people can't focus. The press can't focus. The political system and the consensus, it's not focusing on anything. There's too many things going on. Not on top of that, we have an octogenarian, semi-senile, early onset Parkinson's president that unfortunately is marching us into a nuclear standoff with Russia, and who knows what other kind of war in the Middle East. We've got that on our plate as well. And all we need now, Dustin, is a pandemic for this summer. I mean, that might solve the in-person problem with the convention. You say COVID, get the masks out.
Oh man, I mean, it is plague, war, pestilence, right? Like for this year's election year psyop, we got all of it, like all of the plagues of the Bible. It's frankly terrifying. What my calls to action, Patrick, is that I think New York has to pay a price. There has to be a noticeable impact against the state of New York for allowing this kind of lawfare. It is not safe for you to conduct business in New York. It is not safe for you to put your money in New York. It is not safe for you to be accept contributions from people who are in New York. And so I'm asking people that the start, there's two companies. If you have an HBO or a Showtime subscription, cancel it. That's something that if a lot of us do it, it's one of the charges I'm leading right now is for people to cancel. They're both New York companies. Cancel your HBO and your Showtime subscription, right? Do without Game of Thrones and Westworld and right. So I'll admit I like some of these shows, but go ahead and just cancel it to send a message, right? If those numbers come up, right, those companies have more political power inside the state to apply pressure to try to mitigate this thing from where it's at now. The other thing, on June 5th, which is on Wednesday, lots of people are planning to withdraw their money from New York banks and put it into local credit unions or Old Glory Bank, which is an incredible bank. And so I would encourage people very strongly, get your money, get your investments out of New York. This rogue lawfare means that they can come after anybody. They can freeze your assets, and you need to be protected. Do not take a chance by doing business with New York right now.
And you're going to post the details of some of these alternative banking options and solutions, liberty-based solutions for these sort of things on your X Twitter file, Dustin Stockton. So you want to be following Dustin for details of this. Also, Dustin and his partner Jennifer Lawrence are hosting spaces on X Twitter regularly, covering these very issues. We have hundreds of people, and you can take questions, give question answer sessions. So it's a really great town square that you're kind of hosting there with your spaces, Dustin. I know you're going to get active now. As you said, it's a fire along fire for the Republic. So we're looking forward to tuning in to see what you're saying on all these key issues. But just give a shout out to how people can get involved, find out what you're doing, where to help, where to support you. Go ahead.
Well, appreciate it, Patrick. I can't leave it all doom and gloom, right? I got to offer a little white pill and a little optimism. Donald Trump himself will be returning to X. They just announced it. There's going to be a town hall in Spaces June 13th with Elon. Very, very excited about that. We are also working on something with Trump and RFK. Biden does not want to talk to RFK, wants to pretend he doesn't exist. Trump is willing to take it on. That also appears to be happening on Spaces, maybe in June or July. So there are some optimism. You can find me at Dustin Stockton or the website, americamission.com. We are constantly driving, pushing these issues. We're right in the middle of it. And I'm going to be live outside the courthouse in Wilmington, Delaware all week this week for Hunter Biden's trial. I'm taking my crypto project laptop and we will be outside doing some shenanigans and pointing out the hypocrisy in the legal system between how it treats a Trump and how it treats a Biden.
So that's a big legal trial involving Hunter Biden. Wilmington, Delaware. It's the capital of Delaware. This is the is it state court or federal court?
It's on. I believe it's state gun charges. I'd be federal. I'll be up to speed after I get off the plane tomorrow.
Okay, so that's coming up. Which again, what day is that? That event?
June 3rd is the start of the trial, and then I'm there all week. And then I'm going to be running around full time on the campaign trail again. So I'm planning to attend several of these debates and several of these town halls, the conventions, and rallies all over the country between now and the end. I didn't want to do it. I'd be much happier, like being comfortable at home. But I believe the lawfare has called like me into action again, to do everything I can to organize and alert people and destroy the mainstream media. More than anything, I believe that the propaganda is what allowed us to let things get this far. And so the most important thing we can do is connect with each other, connect with the people in your neighborhood, connect with the people in your community, connect with the people in your church. Don't let them dehumanize your fellow humans.
Yep. Get out there, meet the people around you who you live with, who you mingle with, talk to them, bring up these difficult issues, open up the conversation. That's what you're doing, Dustin, as well as the people you work with. And so we are absolutely encouraging that to happen more, especially in the coming months. Crucial election coming up, folks. That's an understatement to say the least. Dustin Stockton, thank you very much for joining us on TNT this week.
Always great talking to you, Patrick. Talk to you soon.
There he goes, ladies and gentlemen. That's Dustin Stockton. Please follow him on X, Twitter, and any other platforms. Also follow his website as well. We'll drop some of those links in the TNT chat community during the break. So that's the sort of people you want to be looking at during this election cycle to get an honest, unfiltered, and ethical and objective take on what's happening, folks. It's serious. So stay with us. I'm Patrick Henningsen. You're listening and watching TNT, Today's News Talk.